Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to do the bare basics of surrogacy, a surrogacy 101 if you will, for those of you that are interested. Now, I know I've done videos like this before, but this is going to be a super sort of condensed version and just like sort of my expertise shared with you, or as I actually call it, my time gained knowledge of enthusiasm. That's not really English, but I'm going to go with it. I'm also, you know, sweaty and hot, excuse that. So I just thought I would do the basics, and there's going to be an absolute ton of links down below. There's also going to be links to the Channel 1 forum if you have any other parenting queries and you want to look at the experts that we have going on there, because we have a lot of them, but I'll talk about that more towards the end of the video. I'm just going to get down to the basics of surrogacy and hopefully not confuse myself, because so much of surrogacy is sort of interlinked that it's actually quite hard to explain in a bullet point way, which is kind of what I'm trying to do. So I'm not sure where I'm trying to do it, but stick with me, it could be fun, or I'm going to confuse you all, in which case do leave a comment down below and I will explain it a bit better for you, or in more detail if needed. So just come along for the ride. So the first one is, what is surrogacy? Now, surrogacy in its bare basics is pretty much a woman, such as myself, that carries a baby for somebody else. That's pretty much it. In this world, pretty much, I don't think there's any other options. There is two types of surrogacy. First type is traditional surrogacy, where the surrogate uses her own egg, so I donate an egg, and the intended father's sperm will fertilise said egg, usually through at-home inseminations in the UK, but you can also do IUI, which is intrauterine insemination at a clinic, and conceive that way. The next type is gestational surrogacy, also known as host surrogacy, and that is where a surrogate is pretty much just a carrier. We will go and have IVF, just the tail end obviously, because they're not using our eggs, and it will be an embryo that is of no genetic link to us whatsoever. Sometimes it's both of the intended parents, like an egg and a sperm from them, or it's an egg and donor sperm, or the sperm and a donor egg going in you. Now this leads on to the law, because the reason it's that way is in this country you have to A, be in a relationship to use surrogacy. You cannot currently be a single person using a surrogate, but the law is changing very excitingly, should be through by the end of the year, but they've said that for like 2 years now, so just bear with. But it will be legal for you to do surrogacy as a single person very soon, we hope, but you will have to be genetically related to that child. Another law with surrogacy in this country is that you have to have a genetic link. If you're in a relationship, only one of you needs to be the genetic parent, but one of you has to be the genetic parent. You cannot use a donor embryo or donor sperm and donor egg or whatever and use a surrogate. That is unfortunately not something that you can do here. So sorry about that. The other laws are pretty much as long as you are able to apply for a parental order, which extinguishes the surrogate's rights to the child, because I'm the birth mother, so legally it's my child when it's born. And then it transfers the rights to the intended parents, who are just at that point the parents, and they get a new birth certificate issued. Again, there are links to better explanations of these if you want to learn a little bit more in the description bar down below, or throw me a question in the comments. Another one to bring in is the fact that it's illegal to be paid or compensated to be a surrogate in the UK. You cannot make money. Nobody is supposed to make money doing surrogacy, so we get expenses, and that is my next point I wish to cover. So in this country, you can claim expenses as a surrogate, which is pretty much costs that it incurred due to your pregnancy. So for me, loss of earnings, when I take maternity leave, I can take maternity pay because I'm perfectly entitled to that, but obviously there is a drop. If I take, even if you're at 90%, you still got that like 10% drop. Also, my husband takes some unpaid leave from work because he's not entitled to paternity leave because it's not his baby, and we can't really afford for him to have 0 wages for like 2 weeks to help around the house when I'm recovering, because I generally tear quite badly in birth. Bit of an OTT comment there, sorry about that. But basically we cover costs incurred because of the pregnancy, so leave, maternity clothes, vitamins, fuel and park into the hospital and stuff like that, but it does have to be justified. There are stories obviously of people going on huge holidays and getting cars, but no one I know has actually managed to do that, or they've never told me if they have, and the courts can check. Personally, I just wouldn't feel right taking money off of someone. I think it sucks enough to be facing infertility and have to accept that somebody else needs to carry your baby without making it elitist and making it so expensive that the usual Joe blogs or whatever couldn't afford to do it. So I'm very much in line with not commercialising surrogacy myself. I think that would just be a bit unfair. Although when I'm in labour, I do think I probably should demand a holiday because this really hurts. Come back to me in a couple of weeks when I've pushed this child out and I might be like, no, compensation is good. But for now, whilst I've got my sensible head on, I'm like, no, I'm glad it's just expenses. But again, links below, I've done a couple of videos on expenses, and ask any questions, I'll do what I can. Next up is agreements. Now in this country, it's not a legal contract. In America, people hear about the contract where you're basically hiring goods. You're hiring a human being and you've got quite a lot of control over them. Now it's not like that in the UK at all, I'm afraid. We are very much in control of our own bodies. We are very much in control of the pregnancy, and legally we are the parent. So it is all based on trust. The agreement shows intent and can and have been used in court when going for parental orders, that sometimes they're requested to be looked at and stuff like that. So you very, very much definitely need one, even though it's not legally binding. Do not just think it doesn't matter. You do need one. You need to go over every point in there, such as termination or selective reduction, or what tests you would do, to what happens if, God forbid, you have a miscarriage or a stillbirth, because it's something you want to have organised and agreed on before you jump down the rabbit hole. Don't just think it won't happen to me, because you just don't know. So it's very much trust-based in this country, but agreements are important, and I have covered those again in way more detail in other videos. What happens after the birth? A lot of people wonder, when I give birth, do I keep the baby? Do I have the baby for a couple of days? Does it take a couple of weeks? And the answer is no. As long as the intended parents are there when you give birth, which I've had one set where they were there. Seth's parents were there and they took their son and they kept him, and then they went home with him when he'd been cleared by the midwife, and it was all marvellous. The second time, yes, I did have to hold on to the baby because his parents didn't quite make it in time, because I laboured very quickly at like 40 minutes and they lived 5 hours away, 4 or 5 hours away with traffic. So I only keep hold of the baby to make sure they are safe until their parents arrive, and they go straight to the parents' care. Part of the parental order, as I've mentioned before, where they become the legal parents of their child. So weird. But when they do that, is that they have the complete care of their child from birth, or as soon as they can do. As soon as they're like discharged from hospital, the intended parents have got all the rights over their child. There's some medical things where I will, because I'm technically birth mother, so where I do have a little bit of control, but for the most part it doesn't cause any problems. They register with midwife at their own doctor's surgery and they go from there, and it doesn't really cause any problems. But no, I don't get dumped with a baby. If I did, I think I'd be a bit sad, because I like the idea of giving birth, waving them off, laying on my stomach and drinking wine through a straw right into the bottle. I've not actually done that first, because obviously it takes a while for the stomach to go down. But it's a dream, okay? It's a beautiful dream. It's classy. And that's pretty much the basics. Now, if I've missed anything that you would really like to have answered, again, do leave a comment down below, check out the links, go to my page, and you will see various surrogacy videos, and I may have in fact already covered it in more detail. But the reason I said I'm doing this is Channel Mum is having their experts month. So it's just a month where we are focusing, looking at the experts we've got, not so we can feel good about ourselves, although we are pretty damn brilliant, but actually to get the message out there for those of you that need support, because there's pretty much any parenting thing you can imagine and we've got your back. And I do think that's very, very important. The whole message and the mantra is you are not alone, because sometimes being a mum is really isolating and you don't have support. So we have like a psychologist who can help with mental health things like postpartum depression and anxiety. We have the health visitor who's also a sleep expert, who actually I think is possibly a robot and connected to the internet, because she knows everything. A little bit of a girl crush on both Emma and Maggie, who are our helpers, down to autism experts we've just got on board. Martin, who is a finance expert who's answered loads of questions for me. Just adore him. To Lucy, who used to be a teacher, and Bibiana, who's a dentist, and there's just, the list goes on. It's almost endless. So if you've ever got any queries about pretty much any part of parenting you can imagine, do head to the forum, which is also linked in the description bar down below, and you can even meet the experts down on Overcross on the Channel Mum website, and it'll explain who's there and what they are an expert in, as well as of course me, which is the nub enthusiast, because I do the nub and skull theory if you've got scam pictures. But you have to post those on the forum and not the Facebook group, which you will also see me hanging about in, because I'm a trained parent helper. Love all of your faces, and I will see you soon. Bye.